Peter. This is me responding to that video you made, or those videos you made. I'm going to start out by saying that I share this character flaw that you have, and so, needless to say, we may be at this a while. Other than that, it is entirely possible that our little misunderstanding is due to me not explaining myself well enough. So here I try to remedy that. I realize you probably have a lot more knowledge stored away than I do, which is part of the reason I try to keep these sorts of arguments out of my videos. Simply put, I don't know enough about this stuff to be making videos about them. The reason I commented on your video was that within my limited knowledge, I found that your objections to these two arguments missed the mark. Perhaps you know something that I don't, and maybe that makes all the difference, but I didn't see it. Now, for the actual response to what you said. In your little argument outline there, I don't think premise 1 and premise 2 were necessarily premises of any sort of argument I made. As I recall, what occurred was that you were presenting objections to these arguments, being the Kalam and the teleological arguments. What happened was that you raised an objection to the argument, and I responded by simply pointing out some things within the arguments that clearly show that the objection was irrelevant. You responded that I was assuming that the arguments were still valid. Of course, what we were discussing was whether your objections to those same arguments held any weight. One argument you made that I would like to address is that propositions like beginnings, events, and causes cannot exist without time. I then proceeded to ask you when time began, and you said it began at the event of the Big Bang. My argument is that if time can begin in an event, it can have a cause. Actually, if time begins, it must have a cause, just like the universe. You said, however, that for A to cause B, A must precede B in a series of linear events, and linear events is time. I tend to disagree with this. A does not need to have existed before B, per se, in order to have caused B. Indeed, it is somewhat feasible that B existed before or even simultaneously to A. Urban Elf even touched on this at some point. Time doesn't seem to be what allows causality, but instead an effect of causality. I would go so far as to say that time is simply what we call the steady succession of cause and effect events. My next problem with this video that you made is this thing we keep coming back to, and that is this claim of yours that we are special pleading God into a no-causality zone, as it were. What really bugs me about this is that you only need to pay close attention to the cosmological argument, and this objection is, to put it frankly, worthless. The reason the universe needs a cause, simply put, is that it clearly began to exist, or at least began to be active, a finite time ago. We can bring up the law of entropy. We can bring up the impossible occurrence of an infinite regress of events. And best of all, we can bring up the Big Bang. The Big Bang was an event. Events simply do not happen spontaneously. Nowhere in nature does something ever occur without a cause preceding it. God doesn't move toward entropy. God is not composed of a succession of events. God never had a Big Bang, so God never needed a cause. Your objection to the teleological argument is basically that since the majority of the universe is hostile to life, the universe was not engineered for our existence. There are so many ways one could come at this argument, but let me put it this way. Your objection is equivalent to me saying that because there's only a tiny sliver of space on my PlayStation in which a game disc can fit, my PlayStation was not engineered with the intent to play that disc. Next, you bring up this strange thing about a mind not made out of any physical material. You ask whether it is made out of spirit, etc., etc. What is spirit made out of? I will simply say that I think an intelligent will is something in and of itself, and isn't really made out of anything. Alright, Mr. Tooltime, I hope that clears everything up. No doubt you'll want to respond in some way. But hopefully we actually at least understand what we're saying.